Nobody has the authority to make you feel unsure of yourself. Hello, and welcome to this YouTube channel. My name is Jameelah, and I am a master manifester, and I'm sure you are too because you are consuming content like this. The name of this lovely channel is Holistic Manifesting because I believe in a whole body, whole mind, and whole being experience when it comes to manifesting these amazing lives that we are choosing. What I'm discussing in this video is how no one else has the authority to make you feel unsure of what you expect out of life, what you want to experience in life, what you want to create in life, what you want to be in life, what you want to develop and grow and co-create in life. Nobody has that authority, right? I think about all the times when I was younger, and I always had these like built-in standards when it came to how I live. And it probably was just the upbringing that I had. There were certain standards that were really specific, that for some reason they got nestled inside of me, right? You know, I embodied certain characteristics of growing up in a very religious Muslim environment, little kid. And I remember I would see other Muslim children out in public or different places and stuff, and they would straighten up when they saw me. I don't know what it was. I had something about me that just kind of had that effect on people, and I hated it because I wanted everybody to keep on being their loosey-goosey self and, you know, just be okay and relaxed around me. But they would just straighten up and be like, oh, yeah. And sometimes they would even say, Assalamu alaikum, which the kids didn't really say that to each other. And I'm like, dang, what I do? It just wasn't that ease and effortlessness when they came around me, but it just was always who I was. There was certain mindsets that was always built inside of me, right? I didn't come to this life to kind of just play around with myself and just be like, oh, I'm not valuable, I'm not important. And I remember being a manager in a fast food place when I was 17 years old. And one of the girls that I worked with, we used to go out and do things. And she always wanted to go to these hole in the wall is what I call them, kind of clubs and stuff. And I'm like, I don't really like those places and stuff, but I would go with her because, you know, I was just, you know, one of those kind of people. It was like, I can mix and mingle in any environment, but I ain't necessarily got to enjoy it. And then I knew something was up because then I saw people that I knew there from school and they're like, Jameelah, you in here? What you doing in here? That's when you know you don't fit in an environment where people look at you like that. They're like, what you doing in here? And so I went, you know, with her a few times, but over time, our standards and what we expected out of life was quite different. And eventually the relationship turned into a certain thing because she started trying to tell me that my standards were too high. What I was expecting was too much, that I wasn't going to get what I was looking for. It's like it's all fun and games until somebody starts telling you that what you want out of life is not going to be possible for you. When they start trying to make you feel unsure of yourself because they don't really believe in themselves to a certain degree, or they have different standards that are just parallel over there and you have them over here and they don't line up. But some people, they have to, if your standards are a certain way, you'll offend them if they deem yours as better than theirs in some kind of way. And I remember we got into a conversation in the car about what we wanted to do and go. And she wanted to go to this place where they literally was shooting every other weekend. I'm like, I don't do what I want to risk my life for to go to a club. Not doing it. And like we were only like 17, 18. So it was kind of one of those places where they didn't ID people, but you can go in, you know, and it's New Orleans. So they didn't really have like tight, you know, ways that they would handle, you know, whether you can come in or not and all this kind of stuff. And so I was doing this and she had this whole plan about like, well, if they start shooting, there's a way you can go out the back and then there's a back door, blah, 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 because my uncle owns this place. And I'm just like, girl, no. And she said, you know what your problem is? You think you better than everybody else. And I remember that to this day. And I was like, no, I think I'm better than that. They don't have nothing to do with everybody else. And she couldn't understand how I separated everybody else, the people from the act. I was like, I don't really care what everybody else is choosing. I'm not choosing to go to a club where everybody's shooting and all this kind of stuff and you giving me escape routes. It's like, why are we putting ourselves through this? Who wants to go out that bad to hear, you know, the latest music? I'm good. You know, I don't need to do that. And so it was, you know, her thing was being on the scene and, you know, being out, being seen and all. I didn't really care about what other people saw and whether they thought I was out or not. Obviously, from people's reaction, they didn't think I was going to be out anyway. So anyway, that's kind of like a theme that has run through my life for many years and times, right? Whenever I had a standard that was different, people kind of crashed on me. And what happens is when you get inside of certain environments, I've had this in female relationships a lot. They'll try to team up and gang up on you to make you feel like whatever standard you have is not good enough, or it's somehow make what you're doing not good enough in some kind of way. I remember, I won't share that, but nonetheless, they'll try to make you feel like that standard is somehow offensive to them, because there was a time when I still feel the same way. I feel very different about marriage. There was a time when it was super important to me, and then like at this point in my life, it's not super important to me. You know, it has to play a specific role in my life. If not, then it just probably won't even exist. And so, but I think marriage is cool. I like when I see really, happy married couples and they're like co-creating with each other and they're on the same page and they're enjoying each other's company. I think it's a beautiful, wonderful thing. But there was a time where it just wasn't important to me because I'd already done it. But I was around people who had never been married before, and they were making such a big deal out of the importance of marriage, right? And they saw me dating someone and connecting with them and being with someone to where we were like a married couple, but we weren't. And they were so offended and annoyed by the fact that I was having a certain connection and I was getting a certain treatment and stuff, but I wasn't interested in being married at that particular time. And they were just like, how dare. And I remember that's one of the last times I was in this little group thing that we used to do, because I was so offended. I wasn't offended. I was so taken aback by the negative energy that they were shooting in my direction, because it was something that they really wanted. And because they really wanted it, they felt like I was mishandling it. Like, you should be getting married. You should be focused on this. This man is a good man and blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, well, if it's not what I want to do in my life right now, and it's not something that I want to experience, then that means that I'm okay with it, right? And I was like, and I need to see a lot more from people before I go walking down the aisle, because I did that already before. I don't want to go do that again without seeing really specific personality traits and mindsets. I don't even fully submit into a relationship until it's a certain mindset that I see is there. And so they couldn't understand that. They were just like, how can you not be? But my standard for what qualified for that was much different than theirs, right? And I was like, and I don't want to be doing all that, building bricks with people and putting money together to do. I don't want to do all that. I was like, no. I was just like, you need to have yours established. I'll have mine established. We can come together and it'll be even more established. That's my mindset. And a lot of people make you think, well, you're not going to get the average guy. Well, maybe I don't need the average guy. I didn't went off on a tangent with this one. But that's how people will plant the seeds of making you feel unsure about what it is that you expect out of the world and what you expect to experience. Sometimes we get in these environments and we think that it is beneficial to share our standards and our desires and our mindset with other people, but it literally ostracizes us. And one would say, oh, well, then just really leave from the environment. But I've learned, I have so much wisdom now these days. You cannot throw me in an environment, well, I'm just going to start talking about what my standards and expectations and my mindset is. I can scope that stuff out. I can see whether I'm in an environment, well, it's receptive or not. And I can share just enough of myself that's equivalent to what I feel that that environment actually deserves. And I can still be okay, and I can still, protect my energy to a strong degree. So I can be in a lot of places to where it's like, they living at, they showing up at this level, and I have this level to give, but I can show up at this level, to some degree. And I can also do it without feeling like I'm holding myself back, without feeling like I'm negatively impacting myself or damaging myself. And I can do it and feel like I'm extracting what I need out of this environment, but I'm also depositing something healthy into this environment. And if I happen to get around in a space with somebody who's ready to jump to that level or brings up a subject or a thing that, I can scoot some information into, then fine and dandy. And sometimes you never know. You get around people, and when they're not with the group, and you share some things about what you want to create and accomplish, and they're on the same page as you, and you just didn't know because of the environment that you happen to be in. So nobody has the authority to make you feel unsure of yourself. They're people just like you. You have to keep that in mind, that just because they don't see it possible for themselves, or just because they don't feel like they deserve certain levels of treatment or certain levels of love and appreciation or interaction or, expansion or growth, it doesn't mean that you have to buy into it also, right? Nobody has the authority to walk around making other people feel unsure of themselves. Whenever somebody says they have a certain standard or belief system or a mindset, I don't talk against it. I don't talk down upon it. I don't share with them how I'm doing so much better in this area and they're not, because I know that that's going to make them feel unsure of themselves. I listen, I add information where it's needed, I inspire, and I just make sure that I'm always open to a positive interaction, right? Nobody has the authority to make you feel unsure of any standards or belief systems that you have in this world. Question it, yes. Do research, yes. But don't let other people make you feel unsure of yourself. We are all co-creators. We all have access to source energy, and we all can create the life that we want to live, the life that we choose. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.